So it's really weird to be in front of the camera, but I hope I won't be too awkward to watch. I have my Q&A video to film for you guys today. I thought that it was about time I did a Q&A video because in the past sort of year-ish my subscriber count went up like more than I ever thought it could or would, and so there's a lot of you that ask a lot of questions. So I thought that if I did a Q&A video I could kind of address a big bunch of those questions and you guys could kind of get to know me a little bit better as well, because in all of my videos you just see my hands and my artwork, and so this is just a really good way to get to know me a bit better and answer some of those questions that I've been getting a lot. So I've got a bunch of questions on my phone which I'm going to go through and I'm going to answer. I have grouped some of the questions together because some of them were really similar. So let's just jump right into the questions. So the first question is, how old are you? I am 22 years old. I just turned 22 in January this year. The next couple of questions I grouped together because they were all really similar. How old were you when you first started journaling? How did you get into journaling? What was your first journal? How did you begin? So I've been journaling all my life, on and off, ever since I was a little kid. I can't tell you what my first journal was because I don't remember. I never really was like a hardcore front to back journaler as a kid either. I kind of did a little bit in each notebook and then moved on to the next one because I would get bored with it, or I would just want to start something new. I've definitely always enjoyed journaling, and yeah, I can't really tell you exactly how old I was or exactly the book that I had when I first started because I can't remember. I remember journaling a lot as a child. I remember a couple of different books that I had. I don't have any of them anymore because when I was a teenager I would go through and I would get embarrassed about my journals and I would throw them away. I would destroy them. I did that for probably all of my books. I don't think I have any. So, but yeah, I've always been a journaler. Next questions. Where do you get all your ledger paper from and the old children's book pages? Where do you find all your vintage supplies? Which are, in your opinion, the best places to find materials? And where do you get all those cute papers and ephemera? So a lot of things that I use in my journals and when I make journals are things that I found at op shops. I love that you can go into an op shop and you can get something for like 20 cents and you can repurpose it into something really cool. So when I go to an op shop, the first main things that I look at are the children's book pages and the other books, but I love children's book images. I always look at their cards and envelopes and writing paper. Always look at material and like lace and doilies and stuff like that. But there's a lot of other things you can think outside of the box and use, like game pieces, music paper, jewellery which you can take apart and use the beads and the charm. You can even use clothes and sheets and stuff and repurpose the fabric into journals. So there's a lot you can do. If you go into an op shop, there's a lot there for a really good deal. So I do a lot of my supply shopping at op shops whenever I can. You can also find vintage ephemera and ledger paper on Etsy and online and other online shops. I've been fortunate enough to be gifted a lot of stuff as well, so I'm really lucky in that respect. But yeah, if you go hunting in op shops and antique shops, you'll find a lot of treasures that you can use. And so in my opinion, op shops are one of the top places you can go to find craft supplies because they are affordable and unique. Like, you can find some real treasures and you can find them for an amazing deal. The next bunch of questions I got, there's a bunch of them, are how do you schedule time for art? How do you balance being artistic and having kids? How do you make space for yourself with kids? So how do I balance time being a mum to create? It's probably my biggest struggle. It definitely is a big challenge trying to find time to create. But the thing is, you can't find time. I think you have to make time. So I make time when my kids are asleep after they've gone to bed. So I'll stay up late sometimes and create and use that time. I end up really tired, but for me it's worth it because I really need that creative time. Also on the weekends when my husband is home from work, he can help me with the kids and give me some time. Most days I'm really busy with my kids and being a stay-at-home mum, so I don't have much time to create. There are often times I don't create at all, but sometimes in the day, if I am working on a project, if I can run into my craft room and do 5 minutes before I'm interrupted, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 1 minute, but if I can use that couple of minutes and then go away and come back in a couple of hours and do another 5 minutes, it all adds up. So that's another way that I utilize my time. Just recently I did set myself a schedule though, where I can try and find more time to be productive in my craft room, and this is a little system we're calling like an hour a day. So when my husband gets home from work in the afternoon, he goes and takes the kids and plays with the kids and does all of my duties for 1 hour, one whole hour uninterrupted for me. So that hour gives me a lot of time because it's uninterrupted time. I work really fast because I have to work fast, and I utilize every minute in that whole hour to get stuff done. So that gives me an hour each day on the weekdays, a couple extra hours on the weekends when my husband is home, and then a bit of time at night time if I want to. Another thing worth mentioning is my oldest son, who's nearly 4, goes to preschool 2 days a week. So while he's at preschool, that gives me time to film my videos because he's very chatty. So it just gives me a little bit of quiet while my son's asleep. My other son is asleep, which he is right now. So that gives me that time as well. I think as well, if you really break down your day and you have a look at everything that you do and how you're spending your time, you kind of can be surprised at how much time you waste, like watching TV or scrolling on Instagram or watching YouTube videos, all stuff that's like all well and good, but if you add up all that time together, you can really find a nice bulk bit of time to be productive. With that said though, my family comes first, without a doubt, so I can go longer periods without having any time to create, and that's okay with me because at the end of the day, my family comes first, and creating and Etsy and journaling, all that stuff, as much as I love it, as much as it's part of me, I can push it back and it can wait until I'm ready and have time to do it. So it just gets pushed to the back burner until I can do it. So it's definitely a huge challenge. It's probably the hardest, or one of the hardest things about being a creative mum, is just trying to find time to do both. It's definitely hard. Next question, how many journals have you finished until now? Okay, so how many journals, as in how many finished writing journals? Again, I can't tell you an exact number. I've done a lot and I haven't kept all of my journals, unfortunately. I wish I could go back and make myself keep some of those journals that I've destroyed out of embarrassment, because now, where I am now, I would absolutely love to have them and go through them. Same with old drawings. I used to keep this huge old folder of drawings. I used to draw a lot when I was younger, and I think I kept it until I was like 17, and then I decided to throw it away. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, why didn't I keep that? Right now is the time where I think I would have really appreciated looking back at stuff I've done over my whole life. So journals I've completed, as in written in and journaled in, I can't tell you the exact number. I have done a lot. Journals I have made hundreds. So I've kind of lost count how many I've made, but I know I've made hundreds. In the first year I started making journals, which was 2013, I think I made about 100 in that first year. So I made a lot, and I've made more and more ever since then. I've made a lot of journals. Next question. Next couple of questions are pretty similar. So how do you stay motivated when making and creating? And how do you get inspired when you want to work on a new page? And who inspires you the most? Okay, so how do I stay motivated? I guess for me, creating is something that I really, really love and enjoy, and so motivation, I don't know if I'd use motivation as a word to describe how I feel about creating. It's a hobby because I love it. It's not kind of something I really have to work to motivate myself to do because I really just enjoy it and love it, so it comes pretty naturally for the most part. How do you get inspired when you want to work on a new page? Kind of a difficult question to answer. I get inspired by the stories that I want to record, so often I journal about my kids, and that is probably the number one thing that inspires me to journal about them and to record their memories, so that inspires me in itself. I also take a lot of photos of my kids, so when I have little photos that I want to put in there, that inspires me. But I can also get inspired by other things like certain patterns or prints or papers or ephemera that I have that I want to use that can inspire me to create a page all around it. When I come to a new page, I don't kind of like go searching for an idea for that page. It usually flows pretty easily depending on what I want to put on that page. I usually have one thing, like one story or one photo or one piece of paper or whatever it may be, that one thing, and then I just build the page all around that. Next question, who inspires you the most? So there isn't any one person that inspires me the most. There's a huge community of people that inspire me, people on YouTube, people on Instagram, Pinterest. I'm also really inspired by children's books, so different illustrators that I really love, different artists. There's a huge amount of people that bring inspiration to me. Definitely have a handful or a couple of handfuls of YouTubers that I really love to watch and that inspire me again and again. Yeah, there's just too many to name and I don't want to leave anyone out, so I'll try and remember to put in the description box a list or like links to some of my very favourite YouTubers. Next question. Can you please give advice to someone who wants to start journaling like you do? With more than just writing, you use a lot of pictures and paints, and I'd love to know how to do that. My advice for a beginner, just briefly, would be to do what feels right for you. So even though you might like the way someone else's journal looks, you can always try and copy that, but at the end of the day, you're going to know if it feels right for you, if it comes naturally. I think journaling should come naturally, so if you're trying to imitate someone else's style, I think that can make you really not enjoy the process as much as you should be. It should be something that flows from you, and if it does flow from you authentically, it will be something you can really benefit from. So if you want to incorporate more things and do more creative journaling, my advice would be just to go for it. Gather up a bunch of things that you love, pictures that you love, colours that you love, photographs that you want to record, and get them all together and just have fun. Just experiment and do what feels right for you, and once you just start, you will just grow at each time, so you'll start to learn more about yourself and more about what you prefer. Next question, what kind of paint do you use for the covers of your journals? I use acrylic paint for my journals, and I always, once I've finished creating my journals, I use a variety of mixed medias. I seal them up so that they'll be protected and long lasting. Hi Johanna, I would love to know which paper trimmer you use, as I need to buy a new one. I love all your videos, you are very inspiring. Thank you so much. So the paper trimmer I use is by American Crafts. I got it from Spotlight in Australia. It's lasted me a few years and I think it's pretty good, but there could be better options out there. I'm not sure. I kind of just use whatever I have, so, but yeah, I'm really happy with it. So American Crafts paper trimmer. Next couple of questions that are pretty similar. How are you doing your journal hardcovers, and how do you reinforce your journals so that they don't get bent easily? So my handmade journals are made with bookboard, so they are hard cover. That's how I make them as sturdy and hardcover as they are. So yeah, they're made like a real book out of the same material. So yeah. When did you start journaling about your sons? So when I was pregnant with my first son, I was 17 years old. Yes, it was a unplanned pregnancy. So when I was pregnant with him, I started thinking about creating a scrapbook for him, and I think that's really where I kind of started to get more and more obsessed with journaling and memory keeping because I knew that this was a really, really life-changing time for me, and I wanted to record it, and I wanted my son to know how I was feeling at that time and that I loved him and all of those things. So I just wanted to document his life right from the very start. So ever since before he was even born, when I was pregnant, is when I started journaling about him. So my camera just died, which is really annoying. Then wait for it to charge. I thought I'll just try and finish up the last questions I have on my phone. This is the only real good time I have to film while my little boy is asleep, so I just want to try and finish this video for you guys. So as I was saying, I have journaled about both of my children ever since they were in my stomach when I was pregnant with them. I've always journaled about them. It just has come really naturally to me. I think just the desire to remember, and also just those really special moments, it was just a natural thing to write them down and to write to my kids. So yeah, I've kind of always done that. Next part of that question was what do you think is important to write about? And again, for me, it's very important to write about my kids because, like I said, they're the most important part of my life. So that's the biggest part of my life, and so writing about it is something that just happens. I think it's important to write about your kids and to your kids because it gives them something as well, something to look back on as well as yourself. And I think everyone would agree with me that time just goes so fast and they grow so fast, and so writing about them, I think is really, really important. But in saying that, I think writing in your journal, no matter what you write, it's important. If it's something that you feel like you want to write, even if you're talking about like the weather or like, something that no one else cares about, if you feel the need to write about it, that's important. So there's no rights and wrongs with what you want to write about. It's just, there's nothing really more or less important than the other. Next question, how did you come across your pen pals? I've heard you mention them in previous videos. I'm not really a big pen pal person. I love the idea of it. I love sending and receiving mail, happy mail and letters. But it is time consuming, I think, especially when you're a creative person and you want to like put a creative spin on it. So I actually don't have many pen pals. I don't. I write regularly to a friend, a lifelong friend from school. We've always written letters to each other, even when we were in high school. One of us would write a letter and take it to school, and then the other one would take it home and write a reply, and then so on. So we were always writing letters to each other just for fun. And so out of school, we've continued that, and we live far away from each other now. So it's a really fun way to stay in touch with each other. So she's probably my most consistent pen pal, and I know her in real life, and I've always known her. So that's one. There's another pen pal I found on Instagram. I just asked her if she would like to exchange letters with me. She's one of the snail mail accounts. There's some Instagram snail mail dedicated accounts which are really beautiful. There's a couple of others I've exchanged a few letters with that I've kind of come to know online as well. And then the only other one is my nana. So I don't know if she'd be a pen pal, but we have exchanged a couple of letters. It's just a really good way to stay in touch, and she's living on her own, so it's kind of nice to know that it's something she can kind of look forward to, or just a way for her to feel a little bit less lonely. So yeah, I'm not really a big pen pal person. Next question is, what is your favourite memory from your childhood? This question's kind of hard to answer as well, because my childhood was probably the favourite part of my life. I had such a great childhood. I have so many good memories. When I look back, my favourite memories are probably just outside in the backyard and playing with my brothers and sisters, especially my older sister. We were really, really close. We still are really close. So yeah, I'm one of 6 kids with my mum and dad, and then my dad has another 3. So I am in a big family, and all the kids in my family, like of the 6 of us at that time, we were 2 years apart, so we were all really, really close, and we all played together. And yeah, so my favourite memory, I can't give you one, I'm sorry. There's just so many. Next question is, how long does it take you to create one journal? So this question is really hard to answer as well, because it really, really varies. Depends on the particular journal that I'm making. They're also different. I have tried to streamline my process quite a lot, like break it down into parts. So like making the cover, like building the covers, painting the cover, binding, beading, making the pages, like all of that stuff. There's so many different little parts, and it takes a very long time. So if you're talking in an hourly time, it takes many, many, many hours to create one book. It really does. If you're talking like over a period of time, it can take me a couple of weeks to a couple of months. It really depends, again, how much time I get in between my family and being a mum. So just working like bit by bit to finally get it finished, it can take me months. Next question. When did you start making journals? How did you learn the process? Do you have a day job, or your Etsy store is your full-time job? Do you believe it is worth it for someone to start selling their own art on Etsy? That is a good question, and I do get asked that a lot. So I first started making journals in 2013, and I taught myself how through the internet and just pure experimentation and practice. So a lot of practice. I watched some YouTube videos on like the basics of how to bind and stuff, and then I kind of just tried my own little techniques and just practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, and eventually I developed my own methods and my own style that works for me. Yeah, so I'd go to any classes or anything to learn how. I just kind of taught myself how, and then just practice. I don't have a job. I am a stay-at-home mum. I'm extremely fortunate to be in a position where I can stay home with my kids. My kids are 1 and 3, almost 4 years old. So for me, it's the most important thing. This time I feel is very short, and staying home with them is extremely important to me. So I am very, very lucky in that respect. My husband goes to work and I get to look after the kids. Etsy is not my full-time job. I wouldn't say it's a full-time job. It's something I'm doing alongside being a mum, something that keeps me busy, something that brings a little bit of income to my family, but doesn't bring like enough to support us. It does feel really good to be able to contribute to my family financially through Etsy, and to be able to make money off something that I really love. And no, YouTube is not my full-time job either. I don't get paid enough off YouTube to support my family either. It's, again, things I'm doing on the side. It feels great to be able to contribute where I can contribute, but it's not kind of enough that I can support the family or anything like that. So they're just kind of like hobbies on the side, something that keeps me busy. Do I think it's worth it? I think there are a lot of factors you have to consider whether it would be worth it for you. There are a lot of like factors that come into it. So you would have to think about why you want to sell on Etsy. Do you want to do it as a hobby, something for fun? Do you want to sell something you're already making anyway? Or do you actually want to like go hard on Etsy and make an actual income off of it? So I think those are the two kind of sellers that you get mainly on Etsy. There's like a hobby person, then there's like people that are really successful that can live off what they make on Etsy, which is amazing. Do I think it's worth it? I think it just depends, again, what your motives are, what your goals are, and it also depends on what you're selling, I think, because is it something that you can make a lot of and make money off, something you're going to make a profit from? Like, there's just so many things to consider. I think there are certain scenarios where it's definitely worth it, and then there's certain scenarios where maybe it wouldn't be worth it. It also depends as well if you enjoy it. It may not look like a lot of work, but it can be a lot of work, so you do really have to enjoy it. it's not something that's just always fun and always easy. You do have to put a decent amount of work in, so I think that's a big factor as well. Next question, I'd like to ask you, how did you get started? I mean, apart from the reasons and the vision that you had, which I'd love to know, there are also a ton of things that someone needs to have when they're about to start this junk journal journey. Did you order all of the things you needed at once, or did you collect them little by little? I definitely did not just wake up one day and decide that this is what I wanted to do and go out and buy everything that I needed to do it. Definitely not. It took me a long time to collect everything that I have. I mean, not that long considering it could have taken me a lot longer, but it's taken me a couple of years. So since 2013 is when I first really started collecting more and more craft supplies. Before that I didn't have very many at all, and when I started I didn't have very many at all. So it was definitely a gradual thing. It's not really a cheap hobby, so yeah, I think it's something that you kind of have to do slowly. And also I think it's something you do slowly because as you progress with your art skills and your techniques and your interests, and like you kind of branch off into different things, that's when you naturally try different supplies and different mediums and experiment with different tools and stuff like that. So it kind of just happens slowly over a process. At least that's how it happened for me, for sure. Last questions, when are you most creative? I probably get most of my ideas at night time. Like when I'm laying in bed, I find it really hard to sleep most nights actually. And oftentimes I'm just thinking and overthinking about certain ideas I have of things that I want to make. So definitely at night time I come up with some ideas when I'm trying to sleep. Other than that, kind of just comes in spurs, so I'll just randomly get inspired from something and feel the need to run to my craft room and start creating. So there's not really any set time that I feel creative, it just happens. Who are my inspirations? Again, I will put a link in the description box to some of my favourite journalers and other YouTubers that really inspire me. There's a huge community out there which is amazing, and everyone's so different. That's what I love about it. Off the top of my head, I wouldn't want to kind of list them because I know that I'll leave people out, and there's just so many and all equally as amazing as each other, so I'll link it below. And then the last question, which is about my filming setup, I'll insert a clip here showing you guys how I film my videos because people ask me that all the time, and my setup's really simple but it works really well. So yeah, so I'll just put that clip in now. So this is my filming setup. I'm sorry for the shaky camera. So this is like a little DIY tripod that my husband built for me. I probably could have built it myself if I wanted to, so if you need to build one, really easy. And all it is some scrap wood, which is made into like this big arch, which I can just sit up on my table when I want to film. And then over here on the top here, there's like a little block of wood, which helps my iPhone rest on that over the top so it doesn't fall down. And then it gives you a view that looks just like this when I lay my phone down on top of it. So yeah, really cool, really easy, really cheap, and yeah, it gives me a really nice overhead shot. I also just film using my phone for the most part, so when I'm filming overhead I just lay my phone down and I film on my iPhone. I have an iPhone 6 Plus, which is what I'm filming on right now. I also have a camera which is a Sony something or other, I can't remember. I've used it a couple of times to film, but I don't really like to use it just because I find it's really more unreliable. Like for instance, battery dies really fast. I can't film for longer periods on it because it overheats, and I also find it hard to film overhead for journaling with my big camera because it's hard to prop up my tripod on my desk and get a nice overhead shot. So I just prefer to film on my phone. One day I would like to upgrade to a better quality camera, but then I'd have to upgrade my tripod setup and I'd have to probably have to upgrade like my editor and stuff. So right now this does the job and it's totally fine. So yeah, I just use my phone. So that was my Q&A video. I'm sorry it was terribly long. I may split it two parts. I'll see how I go when I edit it. I'm sorry that also it's on two different cameras, but I really just wanted to get it filmed for you guys. So yeah, I hope I've answered your questions. If I haven't answered your question, you can always leave me a comment or contact me on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. I try to answer as many questions as I can. It is difficult, it's very time consuming, but I do try and answer as many questions as I can. So if you have any questions left over from the Q&A video, just pop them below. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed getting to know me a little bit better. And yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching my videos, and I'll be back soon. Bye!